Hello, AP Seminar teachers. You know, if you're looking for a smooth spring semester, the secret isn't what happens in the spring, it's what you do right now, in the fall. In this explainer, we're going to break down Cycle 2 and show you how to frame it as the ultimate launchpad for your students' success on their first big hurdle, Performance Task 1.
Okay, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with why Cycle 2 is so foundational. Then we'll get into the fun part, finding a theme that actually gets students excited to learn. After that, we'll dive into the essential research tools they'll need. And finally, we'll walk through how to run a dress rehearsal for PT1 to set everybody up for success.
So, first up, let's talk about why Cycle 2 is so much more than just another unit on the calendar. You really have to think of it as the foundation for the entire year. I mean it. Get this part right, and everything else just falls into place so much more easily. If you look at the calendar, you'll see Cycle 2 is placed so strategically right in the heart of the fall semester. It acts as the perfect bridge, taking all those foundational skills from Cycle 1 and getting students ready to apply them directly to Performance Task 1. It's not just another step, it's the official ramp-up. And this quote, well, it just perfectly captures the whole mission of Cycle 2, doesn't it? We're moving students beyond just passively reading and identifying arguments. This is where they start to actively question things, to make those critical connections. This is where they really transform from students into genuine researchers. So now that we know why this unit is so important, let's get into the what. The first, and honestly, maybe the most important decision you'll make in Cycle 2 is picking a theme. Think of this choice as the engine that's going to power all the student inquiry for weeks to come. And please remember, your theme can be pretty much anything that you and your students find genuinely interesting. The Canvas resources have some fantastic starting points. From animal science and superheroes to local issues like oil and gas or Houston art. The goal here is to completely change the game, to turn research from a chore into a compelling investigation they actually want to do.
Okay, so once you have that engine, that really engaging theme, Cycle 2 is all about equipping your students with the tools they absolutely need for the journey ahead. We're talking about moving them from just basic searching to some pretty sophisticated synthesizing.
Now, at the absolute heart of this whole unit is one central skill, teaching students how to figure out if a source is credible. We have to give them the tools to constantly ask themselves, how do I know this is trustworthy? And then give them a solid framework to answer that question with real confidence.
So our job, really, is to guide students through a clear, repeatable process. This means showing them how to use academic databases like EBSCOhost, how to break down an argument, how to critically evaluate the evidence they find, and of course, how to ethically attribute every single source.
Cycle 2 is also the perfect time to really hammer home that key academic vocabulary from the curriculum guide. And that critical distinction between primary and secondary sources, that's a big one. Making sure they get this difference is just fundamental to building a strong research report later on. And all of this work, it all leads to the big culminating activity for Cycle 2, which is, I would argue, the most valuable thing you can do for your students all semester. A full, low-stakes dress rehearsal for Performance Task 1. And hey, if you need a little reminder of why this practice is so incredibly vital, just look at the numbers. Performance Task 1 makes up a full 20% of a student's final AP score. We just can't send them into that cold. It's too important. The pacing guide itself actually calls this mock activity the best bang for your buck, and for good reason. It is the single most effective way to bring all the skills of this unit, the thematic inquiry, the research process, the source evaluation, all of it together into one practical, high-impact application. So really, the mock task is all about creating a safe space. It lets students focus on the process, it lets them make mistakes, and it lets them get feedback before they face the real high-stakes assessment. This is where they build the confidence they're going to need when the focus shifts to creating that polished final product.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. Let's do a quick recap of how a really well-planned, well-executed Cycle 2 translates directly into real measurable student success for the rest of the year.
So think of this as your checklist for a powerhouse Cycle 2. You want to focus on these key areas: a compelling theme that really fuels their curiosity, a solid research toolkit to empower your students, and a comprehensive dress rehearsal that builds both their confidence and their competence. And that brings us to our final and most essential question. The right theme can be the spark that ignites a whole semester of passionate learning. It can make all the difference between students who are just compliant and students who are truly engaged. So what topic will you and your students dive into this year?